Welcome everyone and thanks for joining us in JetPatch Monthly Patch Tuesday Overview. As every month, we are going to discuss the latest Patch Tuesday release from Microsoft along with some important vulnerabilities from different vendors such as Red Hat, SUSE, and many more. My name is Or Smolnik and I'm a product manager here in JetPatch. I've also invited my colleague Daniel to discuss about some of JetPatch features and how can they help you with the remediation. Hey Daniel, what do you think about the October monthly Patch Tuesday?
Hey Or, thanks for having me here. So I think the October Patch Tuesday is a nice balance between remote code execution and elevation privileges. We also have a little bit more updates than usual, as well as our first Windows 11 vulnerability.
Definitely agree with you. So without further ado, let's see what we have today. We will first start with highlights of October Patch Tuesday. We will continue with notable vulnerabilities. We will see 3 of them. 2 are critical and 1 of them is important but is publicly known and actually is in use for active exploits. And in the last part we will review 2 interesting JetPatch features. The first will be our custom compliance and the second is our discovery sources. So let's see what we have in this September Patch Tuesday. We have 74 unique CVEs. 3 of them are related to Visual Studio and without any score. We have 3 vulnerabilities that are defined as critical severity in an average score of 7.9. 70 CVEs are important with 6.9 average score, and a single one is a low severity and 7.6 average score. One of the vulnerabilities that we will talk about also is inactive attacks, so we will see a few information about that. We can see that indeed we have a nice balance of remote code executions and elevation of privileges vulnerabilities that are getting addressed in this Patch Tuesday. From the affected products, we see a lot of the Windows desktops and servers versions, and as well the newly Windows 11 and the Windows Server 2022. Also interesting things to notice here is the Intune Management extension and the Microsoft Office suite that we will talk on a single vulnerability in a few minutes. So let's start and view the first vulnerability. The first vulnerability is also one of the first vulnerabilities for Windows 11. It is rated as critical vulnerability with a score of 8.0. It is related to the Windows Hyper-V remote code execution, and it is caused due to improper input validation in Windows Hyper-V. And this vulnerability is related only to Windows 11 and Windows 2022, plus the core edition of Windows Server 2022. This is because they added few more components and libraries that related to Windows 11 and Windows Server 2022, and this is where this vulnerability can exploit. The second vulnerability that we will talk about is a critical vulnerability in a 7.8 score and related to Microsoft Office and especially the Microsoft Word. It's allowing a remote code execution in the privileges of the user that clicks the file. An attacker could craft a malicious document that will be able to execute a predefined code on the victim asset. In contrary from the previous Patch Tuesday, here we have a Microsoft Office vulnerability that a preview pane is vulnerable to. So in the last month, the preview pane were not vulnerable to the vulnerability discovered, but here we have also a vulnerability to the preview pane. So make sure you won't click on any unknown files that somebody sent you over the email, or if you're downloading it somewhere over the internet. Now all of the Microsoft Word versions and Office are vulnerable starting from 2013 and continuing with the latest one, 2019. Last but not least, we will talk about a vulnerability related to the Win32k Windows driver, and it is in important and not critical severity in a 7.8 score. It can provide elevation of privileges to the attacker which is commonly used at Trojan horse activities in order to take information, to pull information and send it to further analysis in his CNC. It is discovered by Kaspersky Labs, and it is exploiting a memory leak in the kernel module, one of the functions inside this library in the driver can cause a memory leak that can be exploited by the attacker. All Windows servers and workstations are impacted by this vulnerability, and it's very important to patch your environment because it is something that is already in use. Now, after we talked about some notable vulnerabilities, we can continue and see and review two really nice features from JetPatch. And we will start with the custom compliance. So, Daniel, can you please explain us what is custom compliance?
Yeah, thank you, Or. So, custom compliance is a great feature to use with JetPatch when not all of your endpoints need all of the applicable patches that are available to them. Now, as you see on screen, this could relate to .NET patches, where maybe not all of your endpoints need .NET patches, or another example is kernel patches, where maybe not all of your endpoints need a kernel patch. In order to set custom compliance up within JetPatch, it's very simple. All you need to do is add tags to the machines themselves, create a save filter or patch bundle with the patches you would not like added onto the endpoints, and then set up the policy itself like you see on screen, and you're ready to go. Now, in terms of how many endpoints the policy is affecting, you can see at the bottom right of the screen that it shows you the affected endpoints. That way you're understanding how many endpoints are these policies affecting. Now, we understand that custom compliance is important, but we also give you the ability to turn it off and on as needed. So if you would like to turn custom compliance off, it's as easy as switching a switch within the settings of JetPatch. Now, you'll notice if you have policies set up that your endpoint compliance will also change. So if you look at the endpoint compliance on screen right now, you'll notice the numbers change when the policy is off compared to when the policy is on. Now, this is very important because we want our customers to have a more realistic endpoint compliance. And by turning custom compliance on and only calculating the applicable patches that you want for the environment you have, you're bound to have an endpoint compliance that represents a realistic value.
You know, Daniel, we have some customers that are afraid to update their kernel of Linux, for example, or afraid to update .NET libraries because they are relying on them as dependencies to other applications. So this is how they can manage this spatial compliance or the custom compliance. So they will make sure nothing will be updated when they don't need it.
Yeah, and just to add on, one of the great benefits of custom compliance is not always there just to make sure that these things do not happen, but also accidents. We understand that there sometimes manual errors get in the way, and even if you try adding a applicable patch to these machines that you've already set up a policy to not patch, it will not happen. So it also does a really good job at preventing accidents from happening as well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely agree with you.
Yeah, so moving on to discovery sources, JetPatch prioritizes the discovery of information and using it within JetPatch. Now, related to the endpoints themselves, discovery sources can really help discover all of your endpoints in your environment and automate this process as well. It's as simple as putting in the configured settings needed for the discovery source, such as maybe WSUS, vCenter, Amazon, Azure, AD. We have many different discovery sources that we can use. And once the configured settings are in, everything will start to show up within the JetPatch environment. Now, the next step is simply deploying the connector. This can be done manually and or by your own means as well. But we'll talk about more of this in the next month's Patch Tuesday. After that, your environment is pretty much ready to go. When it comes to putting in the configurations needed for things such as AWS, it's really simple. All you need to do is get the access key, put in the secret key, and once you're ready to go, you can hit save, and it will begin automatically bringing in all of your endpoints into our servers tab, where then you can manually or automatically deploy the connector via any way you want.
Now we know that many organizations, especially the large ones, are spinning off and provisioning new servers and endpoints every day or every week. How this feature can help them to manage those newly provisioning environments?
Yeah, so a great thing about discovery sources is it really helps reduce the amount of unknown endpoints in your environment. It would be horrible to think that just because one of your endpoints is not added correctly to JetPatch, that it goes unpatched for a long amount of time. And that is not good. So by adding discovery sources to JetPatch, we're able to have a real connection between commissioning new machines, decommissioning new machines, and making sure you know where all the endpoints are at every point in the process.
Thank you, Daniel. And that's all for now. If you are looking for more information or are interested in the JetPatch product, you can always reach us from our website. Thanks for having you with us, and see you next month right after Microsoft's November Patch Tuesday. Wishing you a successful patching cycle. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.